In a tiny village surrounded by green hills and silver rivers, lived a 12-year-old girl named Anaya. She lived with her mother in a small clay house with a leaking roof and creaking wooden windows. Life was never easy for them. Her mother stitched clothes late into the night while Anaya helped by delivering finished dresses around the village. After school, even though they were poor, her mother always smiled and said, "Kindness is the only treasure that grows when you give it away." Anaya believed her. Every evening, after finishing her chores, she climbed a hill behind the village and sat beneath an old banyan tree. From there, she could see the entire village glowing under the sunset. She dreamed of a better life, not riches or palaces, but a life where her mother never had to struggle again. One cold winter evening, dark clouds covered the sky. Strong winds shook the trees, and villagers rushed indoors before the storm arrived. As Anaya climbed down the hill, she noticed something glowing beneath the roots of the banyan tree. It was a bracelet. Not an ordinary bracelet. It was made of silver threads twisted like moonlight itself, with a pale blue stone in the center that shimmered softly. Even stranger, the bracelet felt warm despite the freezing rain. The moment Anaya touched it, a whisper echoed in the wind. 3 wishes, only for the pure-hearted. Anaya gasped and looked around, but nobody was there. Suddenly, the blue stone glowed brighter, and words slowly appeared on its surface. Every wish comes with a consequence. Fear crawled down her spine, but curiosity was stronger. She carefully slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. The storm instantly stopped. The sky became silent, and somewhere far away, thunder growled like something had awakened. That night, Anaya could not sleep. She kept staring at the glowing bracelet hidden beneath her blanket. Finally, she whispered, "I wish our roof would stop leaking." The bracelet became warm. Outside, the wind swirled violently. The next morning, Anaya woke to loud screams. She rushed outside. Their broken roof had transformed overnight into a beautiful, strong roof made of polished wood and tiles. But nearby, the village carpenter's entire workshop had mysteriously collapsed. The carpenter sat crying among the ruins. Anaya's heart sank. Her wish had been granted, but at someone else's loss. Days passed. Anaya avoided using the bracelet again, but watching her exhausted mother struggle every day broke her heart. One evening, her mother collapsed from fever while sewing clothes. Terrified, Anaya held the bracelet tightly. "Please, I wish my mother becomes healthy again." The bracelet burned like fire. A violent gust swept through the room, extinguishing every candle. The next morning, her mother's fever was completely gone, but across the village, the old healer suddenly became terribly sick, without explanation. Anaya stepped back in horror. The bracelet was taking health, luck, and happiness from others to fulfill wishes. It did not create miracles. It transferred them. From that day onward, strange things began happening. Flowers wilted wherever Anaya walked. Dogs barked at her shadow. Mirrors reflected strange dark smoke behind her. Worst of all, the bracelet could no longer be removed. It clung tightly to her wrist. One night, she woke to whispers filling her room. One final wish remains. The blue stone had turned darker. Anaya realized something terrifying. The bracelet was feeding on greed and sorrow, and with every wish, it was becoming stronger. Meanwhile, the village slowly fell apart. Farm crops died overnight. People argued constantly. Children became sick. The once cheerful village turned gloomy and fearful. Villagers started believing a curse had fallen upon them. Only Anaya knew the truth. Guilt crushed her heart. Anaya wanted to confess everything, but she feared nobody would believe her. One evening, while crying beneath the banyan tree, an old blind woman appeared beside her. The woman wore a cloak, decorated with silver moons. Without opening her eyes, she said, "The bracelet has returned." Anaya froze. "You know about this?" The old woman nodded slowly. Anaya listened silently as the woman continued. "At first, the king used the bracelet for noble reasons. He wished for rain during a terrible drought, and rivers filled overnight. He wished for food during a famine, and golden crops spread across the fields by morning. The people praised him as a miracle king chosen by the heavens themselves. But the bracelet was never creating miracles. It was stealing fortune from elsewhere. Villages beyond the kingdom began drying up. Their rivers vanished. Their crops failed. Their children starved. Yet King Varun never saw their suffering. The wind grew colder around them. Slowly, the bracelet poisoned his heart. The more people praised him, the more power he desired. Soon, he stopped wishing for the kingdom and began wishing for himself. He wished for towering palaces covered in gold. Jewels appeared in his treasury while mines in distant lands mysteriously collapsed. He wished to become stronger than every warrior, and brave soldiers across the world suddenly fell weak and ill. Every wish fed the bracelet darkness, and the bracelet fed the king greed. The old woman's fingers trembled slightly as if she could still feel the curse lingering in the air. But the worst change was not outside, it happened inside him. King Varun became suspicious, cruel, and terrified of losing power. He trusted no one. He locked himself inside his palace and used the bracelet day and night. The kingdom that once sang with music became silent with fear. People disappeared for speaking against him. Families starved while the palace overflowed with luxury. And every night, shadows began crawling through the halls like living smoke. Anaya's breath became shallow. The woman lowered her voice further. One night, the king looked into a mirror and saw that his reflection no longer moved with him. The reflection smiled while he stood still. That was when he realized the bracelet was alive. It had been feeding on his greed for years. The more selfish his wishes became, the stronger the darkness inside the bracelet grew. A distant rumble echoed across the hills. Terrified, King Varun tried to destroy it. But by then it was too late. The bracelet had chained itself to his soul. His final wish was made out of fear. He wished to live forever. The old woman paused. The bracelet granted the wish in the cruelest way possible. His body did not die, but neither did it truly live. Darkness consumed him slowly until he became a hollow shadow trapped inside his own palace. The kingdom collapsed soon after. Crops died. Rivers turned black. Storms swallowed the land. The surviving people abandoned the cursed kingdom forever. The banyan leaves rustled violently overhead. Before the palace was destroyed, a group of wise elders managed to seal the bracelet beneath this tree, hoping no one would ever find it again. But cursed objects wait patiently. They whisper to lonely hearts. They promise hope when people are desperate enough to listen. The blind woman slowly turned her face toward Anaya. Though her eyes were clouded white, they felt frighteningly powerful. The bracelet does not choose the greedy first, she said softly. It chooses the kind-hearted. Because pure hearts make the strongest wishes. Anaya looked at her trembling hands. How do I stop it? The woman's expression darkened. The final wish decides everything. If used selfishly, the bracelet will awaken fully. But if used selflessly, the curse can be destroyed forever. That night, Anaya returned home. She looked at her sleeping mother. The house was warm now. Food filled the shelves. For the first time in years, they had comfort. But the village outside suffered because of her. Tears rolled down her cheeks. The bracelet began glowing brightly. The whisper returned. Your final wish. Anaya closed her eyes tightly. She could wish for riches, a palace, a better future, anything. But then she remembered her mother's words. Kindness is the only treasure that grows when you give it away. Anaya took a deep breath. Then she spoke softly. I wish for everything stolen by this bracelet to be returned, even if it means losing everything it gave me. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then the bracelet exploded with blinding blue light. The ground shook violently. Dark smoke burst from the stone like screaming shadows. The entire village trembled as storm clouds spun across the sky. Anaya felt herself lifted into the air. The bracelet tightened painfully around her wrist. It was fighting her wish. The shadows screamed, "Selfless hearts destroy us!" Suddenly, the bracelet cracked. Light burst through the darkness like sunrise. Across the village, dead crops bloomed again. Sick people recovered. Broken buildings repaired themselves. Happiness returned to the streets. The curse was breaking. With one final cry, the bracelet shattered into silver dust that vanished into the wind forever. Anaya collapsed unconscious. When she woke the next morning, sunlight poured through the old leaking roof once again. Their shelves were nearly empty. Everything magical was gone. But outside, the village was alive with laughter. Birds sang again. Children played in the streets. And for the first time in months, peace had returned. Anaya smiled weakly. Her mother hugged her tightly, unaware of the sacrifice her daughter had made. From that day onward, Anaya never wished for miracles again. Instead, she worked harder than ever beside her mother. Years later, the villagers would often tell stories about a cursed bracelet hidden beneath the banyan tree. But nobody knew the brave little girl who had destroyed it, except the old blind woman. Sometimes, on quiet, moonlit nights, she would smile toward the hill and whisper, "The pure-hearted child saved us all." And somewhere high above the village, the moon glowed a little brighter. Thank you for watching Toon Cartoon. For more magical adventures and heartwarming stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.